The words hit me like a slap across the face. You're a disappointment, Marcus. A complete waste of potential. My father, William Bennett, stood in his perfectly pressed suit, looking down at me with those cold gray eyes I'd spent 28 years trying to impress. We were standing in his study, surrounded by awards and photos of my older brother, Derek. Always Derek. The golden son who went to medical school, married the perfect woman, gave them 2 perfect grandchildren. And then there was me, the art teacher who chose passion over prestige. My mother, Patricia, stood silently by the window, not even trying to offend me anymore. She'd stopped doing that years ago. Your brother just made partner at his firm. Dad continued, and you're still playing with crayons. Something inside me broke. Not shattered, just quietly broke. 28 years of trying, hoping, waiting for approval that would never come. I looked at the man who was supposed to be my hero and felt nothing but exhaustion. I left that house without another word. My girlfriend, Zoe, was waiting in the car, and one look at my face told her everything. "That bad?" she asked softly. I couldn't even speak. I just nodded and stared out the window as we drove back to our small apartment. That night, I lay awake thinking about every dismissive comment, every forgotten achievement, every time Derek's accomplishments were celebrated while mine were ignored. My art exhibition last year, Dad didn't come. Said he had a golf tournament. My teaching award, Mom said it was nice, but asked when I'd get a real career. The breaking point wasn't just Dad's words. It was a realization that I'd spent my entire adult life chasing validation from people who would never give it. At 3 a.m., I made a decision. I pulled out my laptop and started researching something I'd been thinking about for months. My grandmother, Helen, had left me an inheritance when she died 3 years ago. $50,000 that I'd never touched. Grandma Helen had been the only one who understood me. She'd been a painter herself, back when women weren't supposed to have careers. She'd seen something in my childhood drawings that nobody else did. "You have a gift, Marcus," she told me months before she died. "Don't let anyone dim that light." I kept her money in a separate account, almost like keeping a piece of her alive. But now, staring at that balance, I knew exactly what to do with it. The next morning, I called my best friend, Troy. He ran a small gallery downtown and had been pushing me to do something bold for years. "I want to quit teaching," I told him. "I want to go all in on my art." There was a pause. "About damn time," he said. "What's the plan?" I took a deep breath. "I'm going to create a collection, something that'll make people stop and look. And I'm going to do it without telling my family anything." For the next 2 weeks, I planned everything in secret. I gave my notice at the school, telling them I needed a sabbatical for personal reasons. I rented a small studio space in the warehouse district, paid for 6 months up front. Zoe thought I was crazy at first, but when she saw the fire in my eyes, she became my biggest supporter. "Show them what you're made of," she said, kissing my forehead. I didn't tell my parents. Didn't call Derek. Didn't show up to the monthly family dinner. When Mom called asking where I was, I said I was busy with work. Not technically a lie. My father's words echoed in my head every single day. Playing with crayons. Fine. I'd show him exactly what these crayons could do. I started painting at dawn and didn't stop until midnight. My collection had a theme, invisible children. Each piece represented people who'd been overlooked, dismissed, told they weren't enough. Troy stopped by the studio one afternoon and stood silently in front of my work for 10 minutes. "Marcus," he finally said, his voice thick with emotion. "This is it. This is what you were meant to create." I had 15 pieces completed, each one more raw and honest than the last. There was a perfect sun, showing a shadow figure standing in front of a wall of achievements, while a smaller figure sat alone in darkness. There was dinner table with empty chairs and one place setting pushed to the corner. Every painting came from a memory, a moment when I'd felt invisible in my own family. "I want to show these," Troy said. "I know a curator at the Westfield Gallery. She owes me a favor." The Westfield Gallery wasn't just any gallery. It was the most prestigious art space in the city. Critics from major publications reviewed their exhibitions. My father had taken Derek there once for a charity event. The curator's name was Amara-chun. She came to my studio on a rainy Thursday afternoon, elegant and intimidating in her black dress. She walked through my collection without speaking, her expression unreadable. I held my breath, waiting. "How soon can you have 25 pieces ready?" she finally asked. My heart stopped. "You want to show my work?" "I want to give you the main gallery for a month," she said, turning to face me. "This is powerful, Marcus. It's exactly what the art world needs right now. Authentic emotion, technical skill, and a story that matters." We shook hands, and I felt like I was dreaming. The exhibition was scheduled for 3 months away. I had to create 10 more pieces and prepare statements for each one. Troy immediately started spreading the word through his connections. Meanwhile, my phone kept buzzing with messages from my mother asking why I was avoiding family dinners. I ignored every call and text from my parents. When Derek tried calling, I let it go to voicemail. "Hey, little brother, Mom's worried about you. Just call her back, okay?" I deleted the message. Zoe watched me work with quiet concern. "You're allowed to be angry," she said one night, bringing me coffee. "But don't let it consume you." "I'm not angry," I replied, adding shadows to a canvas. "I'm focused." But she was right. Part of me was angry. Furious, actually. Years of being treated like I didn't matter had built a fire in my chest that I was channeling into every brushstroke. The art world started buzzing about my upcoming exhibition. An influential blogger mentioned it. A local magazine wanted to do a preview feature. Amara called me weekly with updates about pre-sale interest. "We have collectors asking about purchase options before the opening," she said. That's rare for a first major exhibition. 6 weeks before the exhibition, I ran into Derek at a coffee shop. He spotted me before I could leave and walked over with that concerned older brother expression I'd seen 1,000 times. "Marcus, what's going on? You've gone ghost on everyone." "I've been busy," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "Busy with what? Did something happen? Is it Zoe?" "Zoe's fine. I'm fine. I just needed space." He sat down across from me uninvited. "Dad's pretty upset, you know. He thinks he said something that offended you." I almost laughed. "Did he mention what he said?" Derek looked confused. "Something about your career? Look, you know how Dad is. He just wants what's best for you." There it was. The excuse I'd heard my whole life. Dad just wants what's best. As if dismissing my dreams and calling my life's work child's play was somehow love. "Tell Dad I'm fine," I said, standing up, "and tell him he'll understand soon enough." Derek grabbed my arm. "Understand what?" I pulled away gently. "You'll see." I left him sitting there, confused and concerned. Good. Let them wonder. Let them worry about what I was doing, instead of just assuming I was failing at life. That night, I finished my 20th piece. It was called The Disappointment, and it was the most personal painting I'd ever created. It showed a young boy holding up a drawing to a man who was looking away. Phone pressed his ear. In the reflection of the phone screen, you could see the boy's drawing. It was beautiful. The man just couldn't be bothered to look. Zoe cried when she saw it. "Your father's going to feel this one," she whispered. "Good," I replied. "He should." 3 weeks before opening night, the magazine feature came out. They called my collection brutally honest and the most anticipated exhibition of the season. The article included photos of 3 paintings and an interview where I talked about invisible children and families. I didn't mention my family by name, but anyone who knew us would recognize the themes. My phone exploded. Mom called 12 times in 1 hour. Derek sent a string of texts asking if I'd seen the article. Even my Aunt Kelly, who I hadn't spoken to in years, messaged saying the family was talking. I turned off my phone and kept painting. I had 5 pieces left to complete, and they were the hardest ones. These were about hope, about breaking free, about finding your own worth when others refuse to see it. Troy came by with champagne. "You're about to blow up," he said, grinning. "Are you ready?" "I don't know," I admitted. Opening night was scheduled for a Friday evening. Amara's team transformed the gallery into something magical. Soft lighting, carefully placed pieces, Statement cards that told the story behind each painting. The press was invited. Collectors were coming. Art critics had confirmed attendance. And I'd done something bold. I'd sent formal invitations to my entire family. Not personally, through the gallery's mailing list. They'd received the same elegant card everyone else got, with no special note, no explanation. Just an invitation to the exhibition of M. Bennett's Invisible. Zoe helped me pick out a suit. Something simple but professional. "You look like someone they should have taken seriously all along," she said, adjusting my tie. The night before the opening, I couldn't sleep. I walked through the empty gallery at midnight, looking at 25 pieces that represented my entire soul laid bare on canvas. Opening night arrived with perfect weather and terrible nerves. I stood in the gallery at 6 p.m., an hour before doors opened, trying to breathe normally. Amara placed a hand on my shoulder. "They're going to love it," she said. "Trust yourself." Troy arrived early with Zoe, both of them dressed up and beaming with pride. "Whatever happens tonight," Troy said, "you've already won. You created something real." The doors opened at 7. People flooded in, elegant and curious, wine glasses in hand. I watched them move through the space, stopping at paintings, reading the statements, having quiet conversations. A woman stood in front of dinner table for 15 minutes, tears streaming down her face. A man brought his teenage son to look at the perfect shadow, talking softly about pressure and expectations. Critics took notes. Collectors asked Amara about prices. And then, at 7:45, I saw them walk in. My father entered first. In his expensive suit and that expression of forced politeness he wore at events he didn't want to attend. My mother followed, looking around uncertainly. Derek came next with his wife, Amanda, both of them scanning the crowd until they spotted me. I watched from across the room as they picked up programs and read my artist statement, watched as recognition dawned on their faces. They started at the first painting in the sequence. I could see Mom's hand go to her mouth as she read the statement for The Perfect Son. Dad's face went carefully blank, that lawyer mask he used when he didn't want to show emotion. Derek looked between the paintings and me, understanding settling in his expression. They moved through the collection slowly. Other guests gave them space, perhaps sensing the intensity of their reactions. I stayed where I was, talking to journalists about my inspiration. By the time they reached the disappointment, my mother was openly crying. Dad stood frozen in front of it, staring at the image of a man too busy to see his son's offering. I watched his jaw clench, watched his hands ball into fists at his sides. Derek pulled Amanda close and whispered something in her ear. She looked at me with sympathy, then back at the painting. "That's powerful," a voice said beside me. A woman in her 50s, elegant and poised. "I'm Victoria Hayes from the Arts Review. Would you be willing to answer a few questions?" "Of course," I said, grateful for the distraction. As I talked about my artistic process, I kept my family in my peripheral vision. They'd finished the exhibition and were standing together near the gallery entrance, having a heated, whispered conversation. Mom kept looking at me. Dad's face was red. Derek seemed to be playing mediator. The journalist finished her questions just as my family approached. "Marcus," Mom said, her voice shaking, "we need to talk." "Not here," Dad said firmly, glancing at the crowd. "Outside." "Actually," I replied calmly, "I'm working. This is my exhibition opening, and I have guests." My father's eyes widened slightly. He wasn't used to me saying no. "These paintings," Mom began, dabbing at her eyes. "Sweetheart, is this really how you feel?" "Every word of the statements is true," I said. "If you'll excuse me." I turned to greet a collector who'd been waiting to speak with me. Behind me, I heard Derek say, "Let's just go." He clearly doesn't want to talk right now. When I glanced back, they were leaving. Mom looked back once, pain written across her face. Dad walked straight ahead, shoulders rigid. Derek supported Mom, guiding her to the door. Zoe appeared at my side, squeezing my hand. The rest of the evening was surreal. Critics praised the collection. Collectors put holds on pieces. Victoria Hayes told me her review would run in Sunday's paper. Troy sold 8 paintings before the night ended, including the disappointment to an anonymous buyer who paid double the asking price. Do you know who bought it? I asked Troy. Amara handled it. She said the buyer wanted to remain private. By 10 p.m., the gallery was still full. Amara pulled me aside with a huge smile. Marcus, we have interest from a gallery in New York. They want to bring your collection there after this run ends. New York. I dreamed about showing in New York since I was a kid. Now it was actually happening. My phone had been on silent all night. When I finally checked at midnight, I had 47 messages. Most were congratulations from friends and colleagues. 3 were from Derek. Derek's messages were simple. We need to talk. Please. I didn't respond. The weekend passed in a blur of media attention and gallery visits. Victoria Hayes' review ran on Sunday with the headline, New Artist Exposes Family Wounds with Stunning Honesty. It was a glowing review that discussed not just my technical skill, but the emotional depth of the work. The article mentioned that several pieces appeared autobiographical, depicting a young man seeking approval from dismissive parents. By Monday morning, the exhibition had sold out completely. Every single painting had been purchased. Amara called me at 8 a.m., her voice excited. Marcus, we need to discuss your next collection, and that New York gallery wants to schedule a call. I sat in my studio, surrounded by empty easels, feeling both triumphant and hollow. I'd proven my worth to the art world, but the validation I'd really wanted, the acknowledgement from my family, still felt uncertain. Tuesday afternoon, my mother showed up at my apartment. Zoe answered the door and came to get me, her expression gentle. Your mom's here. She's been crying. I found Mom sitting on our couch, clutching her purse like a lifeline. She looked smaller than I remembered, older. Hi, Mom, I said, sitting across from her. Marcus. Her voice broke on my name. Those paintings. Is that really how we made you feel? I took a deep breath. Every single one. She sobbed then, covering her face with her hands. I'm so sorry. I had no idea. I thought we were just being practical, trying to guide you toward stability. You made me feel invisible, I said quietly, like nothing I did mattered because it wasn't what Derek did. Your father, she started, then stopped. He's having a hard time with this. I didn't create that exhibition to hurt anyone, I said. I created it because I needed to tell my truth. Mom looked at me with red eyes. Can you forgive us? I don't know yet, I answered honestly. I spent 28 years trying to earn love that should have been freely given. I need time to figure out what our relationship looks like now. She nodded, wiping her tears. Your father wants to see you. He's not good with emotions. You know that. But he's been in his study for 2 days, just thinking. Tell him where to find me, I said. But I'm not chasing his approval anymore. After Mom left, Zoe held me while I cried for the first time since the exhibition opened. You were so strong, she whispered. I'm so tired, I admitted. I know. That evening, Derek called. I answered. I bought it. He said immediately. What? The disappointment. I was the anonymous buyer. I sat down, stunned. Why? Because I needed to see it every day, to remember what I missed, what we all missed. Derek's voice was thick with emotion. I knew Dad was hard on you, but I didn't realize how bad it was. I was so focused on meeting his expectations that I never noticed he wasn't even looking at you. You were his favorite, I said. That wasn't your fault. No, but I could have said something, could have stood up for you. Instead, I just accepted it. He paused. I'm sorry, Marcus, for all of it. We talked for an hour. He told me about the pressure he'd felt, the weight of being the golden child. I told him about the loneliness of being invisible. It didn't fix everything, but it was a start. Dad's struggling. Derek said finally, seeing yourself portrayed as a villain in your son's art exhibition, that's hard to swallow. I didn't make him the villain, I replied. I just showed the truth. I know, and that's what makes it worse for him. 2 days later, my father called. Can we meet? He asked, his voice formal. We met at a coffee shop, neutral territory. Dad arrived exactly on time, looking uncomfortable in casual clothes. He ordered black coffee and sat across from me, silent for a full minute. "Your mother says you need time," he finally said. "I understand that." I waited. "I saw your exhibition yesterday." Went back alone. His hands wrapped around his coffee cup. I stood in front of that painting, the one with the boy and the drawing, for an hour. I stayed quiet, letting him speak. I recognized myself immediately, and I remember that day. My breath caught. "You remember? You were 8. You'd drawn a picture of our family at the beach. It was actually quite good, and I was on the phone with a client. Told you to show me later. I never did look at it, did I?" "No," I whispered. "You didn't." He closed his eyes briefly. "I have no excuse, Marcus. I thought I was preparing you for the real world." "You made me feel worthless," I said, my voice steady despite the emotion. "Every time you dismiss my art, every time you compare me to Derek, every time you call my career a hobby, you told me I wasn't good enough." I was wrong. The words came out roughly. I was so focused on what I thought success looked like that I couldn't see what you were building. And now the whole city is talking about your genius, and I missed it. I missed all of it. Dad's eyes were red. I'd never seen him cry. I read Victoria Hayes' review. She called you one of the most promising artists of your generation, and I called you a disappointment. "Yes," I said. "You did. Can you forgive me?" Eventually, I replied, "But things are different now. I'm not that boy holding up a drawing anymore, waiting for you to look. I found people who see me, who value what I create. I don't need your approval to know I matter." My father nodded slowly. "You shouldn't need my approval. You never should have." He pulled out his phone and showed me a photo. It was him standing in front of the disappointment, his expression raw. "Derek took this. Said I should see what I look like when I finally pay attention." We sat in silence for a while. "I'd like to try again," Dad said finally, "if you're willing. To be the father I should have been. I'm willing to see what that looks like." I replied carefully, "But I need you to understand that I'm not changing who I am. I'm an artist. That's not going to change." "I don't want you to change," he said. "I want to actually see you for who you are." When I got home, I told Zoe everything. "How do you feel?" she asked. "Weird," I admitted. "Like something's shifted, but I don't trust it yet." "That's fair," she said. "Take your time." The New York Gallery called that evening. The New York exhibition was scheduled for 4 months later. Amara helped me plan a new collection to show alongside Invisible. This one would be called Visible and would focus on healing, on being seen, on finding your own light. My family started showing up differently. Mom called weekly but respected my boundaries. Derek invited Zoe and me to dinner and actually asked about my art. Dad sent a message every Sunday, usually just thinking of you or proud of you. Small things, but consistent. 3 months after my exhibition, Dad showed up at my studio unannounced. I tensed, but he held up his hands. "I just want to watch you work, if that's okay." I nodded, and he sat quietly in the corner for 2 hours while I painted. Didn't offer advice, didn't criticize, just watched. When he left, he said, "Thank you for letting me see this." It became a weekly thing. Every Saturday, Dad would come to my studio. The New York exhibition opened to massive success. The entire family flew up together, sitting in the front row at my artist talk. When I spoke about the journey from invisible to visible, about finding worth beyond validation, I saw tears on my mother's face and pride in my father's eyes. After the talk, Dad stood and did something that shocked me. He asked for the microphone. My son asked him to say a few words, he said, though I hadn't. For years, I failed to see the brilliant artist standing right in front of me. I called his passion a hobby and his life's work child's play. I was wrong. Marcus didn't become successful despite my dismissal. He became successful because he refused to accept my limited vision of what mattered. His voice cracked. I'm sorry it took public humiliation for me to open my eyes, but I'm grateful he never stopped painting. The room erupted in applause. Afterward, collectors bought 16 paintings in one night. But the moment I treasured most was Dad standing in front of my newest piece, titled Scene, which showed a father and son looking at art together, both finally present. "Thank you," he whispered, "for not giving up on me. I'd proven my worth to the world, but more importantly, I'd proven to myself. And somehow, along the way, I'd found my family again, different, imperfect, but finally real.